a little bit about the genesis of how you got into that notion of we're going to humanize these consumers' audiences in different ways than perhaps we have as brands historically?
So I'll start first by just being really honest that my background started in insights. So the idea of the idea of actually recognizing that while data is important, making sure that we do realize that we're talking about humans is really what we all need to come back to. And I will tell you, the word audience is quite possibly one of my favorite words, and I was thinking about it when we were going through this. And the reason why is that audiences inherently are investing something to get something, whether it's time, resources, money, whether they want to be entertained, they want to be educated, they want to exchange something and earn something. And we often in businesses find that we are thinking about them as target consumer audiences. As you said, clinical, defined by data, all those different pieces that do it. And yes, that's part of the process, but that doesn't actually earn hearts and minds. And that doesn't actually treat them as humans. And unfortunately, the hearts and minds of humans is not something that we can buy. It's something we have to actually earn. And so when we went through this and we finally got to this realization that, hey, we need to go through these different pieces, we also found that there were two things that we were doing that really wasn't all that great and could be a lot better and has gotten a lot better, which is first, we had to truly understand them, their motivations, their behaviors, all the things that make them fantastically human. And the second thing we had to do was exactly what you mentioned. We had to start thinking about the way we talk about them, which of course would impact the way we think about them, which of course would impact the way that we actually put all of our efforts into practice. Because as you said, usually consumer, target audiences, consumer and or shopper, as if they're two very different people. And I hate to break it to everybody in this room, they are really not. Exactly. Often very much one and the same. We also generally refer to it as her, which I think started as equalization.
I used to think that was such a big breakthrough. I grew up in automotive, and it was always him, and I'm like, I used to be really bold and provocative and go, her, she, car buyer.
Right, well, and to be fair, we went through a whole period of time where we said, hey, the female head of household, that's the shopper. That's the person who's always putting the stuff in the cart. Except that I can tell you from my 12 and 15-year-old daughters who can now buy anything everywhere and to borrow the movie line all at once, they literally, it's everyone. Every single person around us are now the shoppers, are now the consumers. And we have to really start to rethink how we think about audiences in that capacity and make sure they're humans.
As marketers, we make a lot of assumptions. And again, data leads us to assumptions. And it is hard to sort of get to the other side of that equation. Mark Darcy in the earlier talk made a comment about Meta used to actually put things out into the world and hope that someone would actually sing back to them. And it was this lovely idea of an audience in a very, very sort of real, practical way about like, does this actually stick with the people that we're trying to put this thing out to the world with?